Hi guys, welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by LawSikho. So these are the articles that we will be discussing today. So basically, in two of these today's discussions, we have merged two other articles. Like in the first one, time to shift focus on the maritime sphere from the Hindu, as well as on the Quad, define the idea, chart a path. This is again from the Hindu. So both of these talk basically about the security, about India, the Quad that we are into, along with USA, Australia, as well as Japan, and also how China is a deterrence in Indian security and what steps should we take in this regard. Secondly, leaving no older women behind. This is again from the Hindu, and it talks about the old people, the problems that are faced mostly by the old people, and specifically even in the older people, the older women, that the problems that they have to face, and in the times of COVID-19, the specific issues that they had to face. And thirdly, not justice from the Indian Express, along with the demolition from the Indian Express itself, which actually talks about the judgment that has come up from the Supreme Court regarding the Babri Masjid. So as we know that last year, the Supreme Court had given its verdict regarding that the temple would be constructed on the Ayodhya land. But now this decision has come up to acquit all the persons who were accused in the time of that demolition. So what are the reasons behind that, behind this judgment, and how it can be criticized in the legal point of view, we'll be discussing in this article. And fourthly, we have the news and flash column, wherein we'll be discussing the crisp and pointed news specifically for a prelims exam. Before that, let's have a look at the LawSikho courses that we have for you. So we have the Judiciary Test Prep course. So if you are also preparing for the Judicial Services exam, you can definitely check it out. The link to this course is there in the description box itself. Also, you can download free study material from the landing page itself. There are other courses as well for CLAT, All India Bar Exam, etc. So you can look up for them also at the LawSikho page. So let's see that what is the multiple choice question for the day. 9-dash line in the South China Sea was introduced by, so which country actually came up with the idea of having a 9-dash line in the South China Sea? First, China. Second, Vietnam. Third, Laos. Or fourth, Philippines. So if you know the right answer to this question, do put it down in the comment section below. So this is the descriptive question for the day. For securing itself from all exigencies, by exigencies we mean any kind of external threats or any kind of threats that come from the international side. India should focus not only on the continental security, but also the maritime security. Discuss. The answer to this question must be written within a word limit of 250 to maximum 300 words. And once we are done with the first articles of the day, we'll be able to answer this question very easily. With this, let's start with the discussion for the first one, which talks about India to shift to the maritime sphere. So basically, India's continental strategy is now facing an existential crisis, considering adversaries with China and Pakistan. Now, by continental strategy, we mean wherever, please remember, wherever this term continental is used, mostly. So it's like not a general rule, but mostly it refers to the land mass. So as we know that we have the continents, the 5 continents on this earth. So they refer to the land mass that is available, the land, the lithosphere, or the concrete part that we have. So when we talk about the continental strategy, it means the strategy that is followed. And like if we talk about in this context, so the strategy that India has been following to safeguard its borders on the continental side, that is on the land side. So as we know that India, the northern part and the northeastern part of India has land as its boundaries, and in the southern and like on the western east side of the south side of India, so we have water. On the left we have the Arabian Sea, and on the right we have Bay of Bengal, and in totality we have the Indian Ocean. So India is one such country which has both land as well as water at its border. Now, when we talk about its continental strategy, that is the strategy that it uses to protect itself from the borders on the land side. That is, on the left we have Pakistan, like on the western side we have Pakistan. On the eastern side we have China, and then also we have Nepal. And on the northeastern side we again have the boundary of China, Myanmar, Bangladesh. So all these boundaries that are on the land are called to be as the continental strategy of India. But then in this article, the author says that India has not been very successful in safeguarding its own land when it comes to the continental strategy that is on the land. The example that has been given in this article is of China as well as Pakistan. Now, the very famous India-China border issue that we are going through currently as well at Ladakh, that is at the line of actual control in Galwan Valley and various other closer areas. So there also we have this problem of border issue. From the west side, we have it with Pakistan when it comes to the Pakistan occupied Kashmir and line of control. And in this article, though a mention of Nepal is not there, but still, if we take Nepal also into consideration, so Nepal is also facing, Nepal and India are also together facing the border issues. So in a way, the author says that the strategy that we have till date been using to safeguard our borders from the land masses on the side of the land mass, we have not been really successful doing that. And India's excessive focus is there on the continental sphere since independence, and it has not yielded any great returns. Because see, since our independence, we have been indulged into 3 major wars. So this has also been, this was also one of the landmarks that give us an idea that the strategies or maybe the method that we are using to protect ourselves on this frontier is not very reaping one, and it's not really giving us a good return. Then why India needs to shift towards a maritime sphere. Now the solution, in a way, the author gives in this article is that along with the borders, not that we leave our the landmass borders totally. Of course, we need to pay attention to them as well. But also, we need to pay a lot of attention on the maritime sphere. That is the water borders also, the borders that we share in the water body as well. Now, the reasons why we should focus towards the maritime sphere is, first one, the sphere is wide open. Now, India is located at the center of the Indo-Pacific region, as we know, and India also is known to be as the queen of the Indo-Pacific region, because India has a great influence on it. But still, since recent years, we have been seeing that this influence is diminishing since China is proactively moving into this area to grow more of its influence over there. Now, this can undertake coalition building, rule setting, and strategic exploration can be done. So obviously, the power that will be dominant in a particular area, so definitely that will be the one who can call the shots, and that will be the one according to whom the strategies would be made. So that is why we should focus a lot that this superpower, at least in the Indo-Pacific region, should be India alone. Then secondly, growing great power interest. As we know that Germany and France released their Indo-Pacific guidelines in 2020 and 2019. So this is it is a hint that we should take very alarmingly, that other countries, though these are the European countries, but still they are taking a lot of interest in the Indo-Pacific region. Then the opportunity to enhance its influence. Beijing's bullying behavior in South China Sea has interested. So this, as we know, that China has been putting extraordinary claims of itself in the South China Sea as well, and crossing the Strait of Malacca, it has also made various attempts to enter into the Indian Ocean region as well, though India has been quite much successful till now to deter China's interest and movement in the Indian Ocean region, but still we need to be very aware of this fact. Fourthly, the space is more important to China. Now, as we know that for Chinese trade, as we've also studied earlier, basically China is one of those countries who is dependent heavily on Middle East region for its energy supplies, just like India is. So we approximately bring 80% of our supplies from the Middle East to India for petroleum and petroleum products. Similarly, China also is heavily dependent on the Middle East area to bring in its energy supplies. But the problem here is that China, definitely the most feasible way is to bring it through the sea, but then it has to cross the Strait of Malacca. Basically, Strait of Malacca is between Indonesia and Malay Peninsula, and it is the one for which any ship that has to move towards China has to pass the region very close to the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Now, this actually makes sure that India has a greater impact and a greater power in this area, which definitely is not liked by China. And China, one of the reasons why China is moving so strongly into the South China Sea is to look into these hydrocarbons and the energy supplies itself. So that is why we know that this area of Indian Ocean region is very important for China for its trade movements, and definitely China would not miss out on any opportunity to make its own influence develop in this region. Then the Chinese naval plans, as we know, the 9-dash line. Now you know the answer to this question. So the 9-dash line was promoted by China in the South China Sea, through which China wanted to show its influence in the South China Sea and to wanted to put up its own territorial extent and increase its own territorial sea extent. So then it undertook warship building activities in various islands in the near the Philippines and other islands. Like, as we know that the Spratly Islands and the Paracels Islands are already disputed between the other areas and China. So then it also has built its first overseas base in Djibouti, which is in the Horn of Africa. It's there in Africa, and it undertook systematic exploration in the Indian Ocean beyond Malacca Strait. So these are the all things that China has already done, and that is why it is high time for India to think into this direction. Now let's see that how can it be beneficial to India. As we know that India can use its Indo-Pacific engagements to dissuade Beijing from salami, that is the slicing in the territory in high Himalayas. Then strengthen the Quad, as we know that India is a member of the Quad, or the Quadrilateral, which exists amongst US, Japan, India, and Australia, and it is a collective action in humanitarian and disaster relief, monitoring, shipping, etc. So these are all the things that we need to take in care, and India should definitely move towards the step to strengthen its maritime security. Now let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about well-being of the elderly women. So basically, the pandemic of COVID-19 has severely affected persons with multiple and compounding threats. And among these, we have the older generation, and even among the older generation, we have the older women who are at a greater risk. So they are more vulnerable than the other groups. There is a greater peril of the impacts of social isolation. Now, as we know that we are following the norm of social distancing, so the greater impact lies on the elderly people, and especially on the women, because obviously we being young individuals can indulge into various activities. We have our jobs, we're working from home, we have various resources for our entertainment, like we have our mobiles, we have our laptops, internet connections, etc. But obviously these things are not very readily available to the older people, and that is why they're more impacted by the social isolation. And then risk from long distancing social economic shocks. So then in the Asia Pacific region specifically, women outlive men. As we know that various surveys have shown that women tend to live longer than men, and that is why amongst the older generation, the population of older women is greater than that of older men, and they represent the majority of older persons in the region. So even greater measure of the population at 80 and above years exists. Now let's see that what are the specific problems that are faced by the elderly women in this Asia Pacific countries. Firstly, high tendency to live alone, face poverty, and lack family or societal support. Now in this article, a very good example, in a way a good, it's more of an anecdote, a kind of a story is given, that a woman, like if we take a typical example of any Indian village, so there is a woman who is very unlikely to be sent to school, so definitely she has not been educated well, she has been married early, and that is why she got pregnant very earlier, and that is why the children that she had were, neither the children were very well nourished, nor she was ready in her bodily terms to give birth to the children, but she did. So because she was married at a very early age, there is a usual tendency that they get married to men who are quite more in the age, so the age gap is more, so that men tend to die before and they leave their women as widow, obviously. Now this is a situation, now just understand the plight of this woman who is neither educated. The children usually leave them for better opportunities, work opportunities, or education, and they move to cities. This woman she's poor, she's already weak, she's old, and also she's not capable enough to earn for herself. This is the very plight that the women are facing, the older women specifically are facing in the Asia Pacific region. Secondly, majority do not have a reliable and sustained access to the caregiver. As we know that children move out, or they just, they don't even, many a times they don't even take care of their elderly parents, and if the mother alone is there. Now the main reasons for the problems are lack of higher education, no access to gainful employment, then marrying at early age, and unplanned pregnancy. So as we just discussed in that small anecdote, all the things were already discussed. So this is a problem that we all should tackle with unity, and we should really take care of our elder generation, and specifically the women as well, who have to face the brunt of the society. Now here, how their well-being can be assured, as we know, by better policies, more resilient social systems, and gender equality. Now here are some very good examples. Please note them down because they can be a very good fuel for your answers, be it the mains answer or even the essays. And please remember, essays coming from the topics of women, children, gender equality, education are very likely to come. So they have a high chance of being asked. So please note these down. So there are some international initiatives that are related to this point. So 2002 Madrid International Plan of Action on Aging. Madrid is the capital of Spain. So over there, and committed to advance a better world in an aging society. Then secondly, Program of Action of the International Conference on Population and Development, which is in short known as the ICPD, and 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. Now, as we know that very sustainable development goals, they work in this direction. Now, be it sustainable development goal number 4, which calls for quality education. Number 5, that talks about gender equality. Then number 10 also, that talks about reduced inequalities. So there are various other, and number 1 as well, which talks about no poverty. So all these sustainable development goals, they work into this direction. So for India specifically, India's mandate in the United Nations Population Fund, it incorporates the need to enable and strengthen the self-reliance of older persons, and is committed to help government in full partnership with civil society and communities. So this was all for this topic. Now let's discuss the next article and the last one for the day, which talks about the Babri Masjid order. So the Supreme Court, or the Special Court in Lucknow has recently delivered, its order on the Babri demolition case, as per which it has acquitted all the 32 surviving accused. So this is something which has come to be very alarming, because all the 32 surviving accused in the Babri Masjid demolition case have been acquitted, and no charges have been framed against them now, and they have not been convicted of any offense. Last year, while delivering the judgment, like this is the contrary part, last year while delivering the judgment, the Supreme Court held that demolition is an egregious wrong. It said that it is a very heinous wrong and it should be done with very severely. But on the contrary, the judgment that now has come is that all the people who were indulged into this demolition, the live ones at least, they have all been acquitted. So the charge sheet, the crimes that they were involved with, the crimes that they were accused with, was section 153 and 153B, which was incitement to violence. Then section 120B of the IPC. These are all for the IPC sections. Conspiracy to commit a crime. Then section 149, unlawful assembly. And here we should know that here, like for the unlawful assembly, mere presence is enough to make one liable. So obviously these were present, they had, and like if we talk about the criminal conspiracy, so there are various proofs that had been given in order to prove these allegations, but somehow they have not been considered by the court. Now here are the basic principles of a trial. So here they say that the accused must be presumed innocent. So as we know that the basic principle, the tenet of the criminal law or the criminal justice system, specifically if we talk about in the Indian criminal justice system also, it is considered that not until you are proven to be guilty, the court considers you to be as innocent. Yes, it does. Secondly, prosecution. So it is a duty of the prosecution, or the burden of proof lies on the prosecution to prove that the accused is guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. But then in the case, this case as well, more than 100 videotapes were available of this incident, 351 witnesses were testified, and about 800 documents were produced, but yet the CBI could not defend its case, and still the accused were not given any kind of penalty, and they were just acquitted by the court. And the third principle is that benefit of doubt accrues to the accused. So obviously, if there is even a very small doubt that is prevailing, so the benefit of doubt goes to the accused. But then we need to consider this, that even after these many evidences that were available in this case, were they still not enough to actually give any kind of conviction to the accused? This is something that we need to ponder upon. So the criminal law is an island of technicality in a sea of discretion, and the accused gets the benefits of its technicalities, and maybe something like this or something like this has happened in this case as well. So here the discretion of police is there in the matters of arrest and investigation, the discretion of government in giving sanctions to the prosecution, and also the discretion of the judges in discharging, convicting and sentencing the accused. So in this case also, maybe some leeway has been taken in this regard, but definitely this is something that should be thought upon. And if we really consider demolition to be such gregarious and such barbarous, so that something at least should have been done by the court, but sadly it has not happened. Now let's see what do we have for news and flash today. First, ideal weight of men and women redefined. So the Indian Council of Medical Research, that is the National Institute of Nutrition, has defined the ideal reference of Indian male and women with regard to age 19 to 39 instead of 20 to 39. So earlier it used to be this. So the ideal body weight for men and women earlier, it was So now actually it has been raised to 65. Earlier it was 60, and for women it was earlier it was 50, but now it has been raised to 55. So this is the ideal body weight. So this is on the basis of the data from the National Family Health Survey 4, Nutrition Monitoring Bureau, and the World Health Organization. Secondly, crimes against the scheduled tribes saw 26% rise. So as per the National Crime Records Bureau, the NCRB 2019 data, total 8,257 crimes were reported against the STs. So this has actually seen an increase of about 26.5% from 2018. Madhya Pradesh recorded the highest cases, followed by Rajasthan and Odisha. And as we know, in the case of scheduled castes also, Rajasthan had the highest number of cases. So highest number of rape incidents against the tribal women were also reported in Madhya Pradesh. So as we know that Madhya Pradesh is one of those states that has a lot of tribals accommodated in this state. But then again, it is very sad to see that the rise in the crimes against these scheduled tribes is also highest in Madhya Pradesh alone. So this was all for today. We hope it was a good session for you. Stay tuned with LawSikho for such more sessions to come. Thank you so much.